And welcome, everybody, to the Lunacy Podcast. I'm Tony. I'm here with Dave and Dave Sterling, Dave Stevens. I'm Tony Pervenanzi. We're coming to you today from Dual Citizen Brewing in Minneapolis. They have graciously allowed us to do our podcast here. You're going to hear some background noise because this place is kind of hopping, boys. I mean, it is a little bit busy in here after the Loons game.
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere.
It is. Yeah. It's a great atmosphere. Just so you know, Dave and Dave went to the Loons game. I did not. I was on the road back from Oktoberfest in New Ulm. Disappointing loss, boys.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, what do you feel? It kind of feels like we got punched in the gut twice, really, after that one.
Yeah. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Yeah, we're going to get to the games.
We're going to get to the games.
Yeah, it was bad.
But you guys can find us on BGN network, bgn.fm. We are, like I said, we're at Dual Citizen Brewing. We are enjoying their beers. The gracious one of the owners here, Max Filter, has given us a table and a bunch of beers to drink. What are you boys going with right now?
Well, I think I'm the only one. Wait, no, you have Dave, you have a single beer?
I started with the Oktoberfest. They call it the Raymond Oktoberfest, and we are right off of Raymond Avenue. It's the Raymond Green Line stop, so appropriately named. And I've had a few sips of it, and so far I really can't complain about it. And I should say that Dave and I met here before the game as well, just to kind of introduce ourselves to the place. And I had the the Kellogg Cream Ale.
I had that when I got here.
And what do you think of it?
That was fantastic.
Because that's exactly how I describe it.
I'm a big fan of cream ales.
It kind of stuck out at me. I actually went to the website before we came here. This is my first time here.
I think it's everybody's first time.
Everybody's first time. So I went to the website. I kind of looked what beers they had, and that cream ale really stuck out at me. And it was outstanding.
Yep.
Dave, what are you drinking?
So I've got the Osceola Amber.
Ooh.
I really like it. It's pretty dark for an amber, but it's got a good hop presence. Nothing too overbearing. The malt is, I'd actually say the malt's a little laid back for an amber, but it's very good. And then I also had the cream ale when Dave and I got here.
Yeah.
I also thought that was very good. I love it. I love when a beer tastes like I'm eating cereal, and that's exactly what I felt like I was chewing on Cheerios.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I will say this about the Oktoberfest that I am enjoying. I kind of did that in honor of you, Tony, and Nels, because I know that you were down in New Ulm.
Yeah, we were in New Ulm. We went to Oktoberfest. We did the Shells tour again, which, boys, by the way, I've done that tour, and Nels done that tour, and we've all done that tour so many times. I think I could be a tour guide there. We just kind of wait through the tour to get to the tasting room and drink the beer. That's all we do.
I do remember that being the best part.
Yeah, that's the best part of the whole thing, right? Yeah. But no, we had a great time down there. We drank a lot of beer. Met some new fans of the Loons. Gave out the business card, tried to get them to listen. You know. I am drinking from this place. I had the cream ale. I now got a flight of beers. The Cross, the Autumn, the Dewey, and the Market. Now, I've already had the Cross, which is a dark Saison. I say Saison. A lot of people say Session.
We could get into the pronunciation of that later.
You could also say Saison.
Saison, I could say that.
I would say Saison, but...
Brewed with lemon, pepper, and honey. Fantastic beer.
So what does the lemon pepper... You said lemon pepper?
Yeah, lemon, pepper, and honey.
And does that not overpower the honey, or do they work together?
No, because I'm sure they put a little... the lemon pepper works together, and then the honey, of course, brings a sweetness to it. So, But we're going to be drinking throughout this whole thing here at Dual Citizen, enjoying their delicious beers. But let's get into it, boys, because we have some games to talk about that I know we really don't want to talk about, but we have to. Let's start with let's go back in time here. Let's go back 2 weeks ago. Dave Sterling and I did a podcast together. Dave Stevens was on assignment finding players in Argentina.
Yes. He failed.
We were excited about the fact that the Loons could potentially make the playoffs if they continue to win.
Right. I mean, it was a minute possibility.
Yeah.
But it was there.
It was there.
I was listening to the podcast in Argentina, believe me, and you described it as in relation to like climbing a mountain. And I think you had mentioned Everest, and I think that was appropriate because they essentially had to win out, and they needed help on top of that.
Yeah, they needed help, but they needed to continue to win.
Yes.
I'm glad that analogy resonated.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it sounds like a good analogy.
Yeah, what did you say? Everest, and what was the other mountain?
Mount Denali.
Oh, okay.
Denali, yeah.
Because, it's smaller, but it's still massive.
And you kept coming back to it. It's like, well, actually, it more like, even with the back-to-back wins, it still was like Everest because it was. They needed to win every single game.
There was a chance. That's all we were looking for was a chance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we knew going into last week's game, we needed a victory.
Yep.
And what do? They throw up a flipping stinker of a game.
Yeah, I mean, they laid an egg. And, on Twitter, from our podcast account.
Yeah.
I believe that I gave my prediction was 3-2 win.
Yeah.
I believe it was. Obviously, I was wrong.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, a 5-1 loss. I mean,
Terrible.
now Philadelphia, interestingly enough, I picked us to win because Philly has one of the worst home records of all the playoff teams.
They're terrible.
So I was like, well, I mean, if there's a chance to pick up points, it's in Philadelphia.
But let's talk about, they have the worst home record, and we have one of the worst road records.
Not one of the worst.
I think we have the worst.
The worst.
Yeah, we have the worst.
How many wins do we have on the road this year?
One.
And when I say we, the United, yes, one is right.
Yeah.
And
two draws.
Yeah.
Two draws, yeah. So it was worst road record going against worst home record.
Yeah, pretty much.
Battle of the worsts.
But of course, what I failed to do was consider the fact that Philly's been kind of on an upswing.
Yeah.
So, I did not think that upswing was going to be that good. And I honestly didn't think that we were that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we played relatively flat like we always do.
Yep.
But, man, Philly just completely destroyed us. And the thing is, it had nothing to do with offense. I mean, I know we only scored a goal. It was all defense.
Yep.
The back line and Bobby were shit.
Well, let's talk Bobby now. Of course, he didn't play in today's game because he had a bad back.
Right.
I'm thinking he got a bad back from trying to make getting all those balls kicked at him.
And maybe it happened. I think on the first goal that was allowed by Minnesota. I think that you could fault Bobby on the first goal. I think.
In my notes, I fault Bobby on every goal.
On every goal.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know.
I mean, a piece. It's not like he was the only one.
Yeah. I know the defense and even the midfield. They just didn't protect. They didn't do their job. But I think we've kind of gotten used to Bobby Shuttleworth making those kind of saves.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't in the position, and it just looked a little weak.
And if you look at the goals, so it went 7th, 16th, 22nd, 44th, and then they topped it off at 78.
Okay.
So, I mean, we obviously, they let the foot off the gas.
Yeah,
obviously.
they did.
But it's like, it was just perfect. Just boom, boom.
Yep.
Just, you kind of get it. You get a goal. Maybe we got a little bit of rhythm. They got some more possession, and it's another goal.
Yep.
And then in a little back and forth, and then it's another. And it was just like constant. I mean, you're talking the first 3 goals, there were 9 minutes or less between them.
Yeah.
And that was like prototypical 2017 Minnesota United.
And I'm glad I didn't watch it because I had my anniversary dinner with my wife. We celebrated 15 years last week. So I was actually at dinner.
Applause to her.
Applause to her for putting up with me for 15 freaking years and having 2 kids with me for Pete's
Congratulations,
sake.
Tony.
But luckily I didn't get a chance to watch the game because I was at dinner. But I was getting the text messages.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of... And the funny thing was, one of the chefs who was bringing out our food, he was wearing a Loons hat.
Oh, really?
And I said, yeah, they're sucking it up today. He's like, well, I guess I won't have to watch it on DVR then. I said, I wouldn't. Yeah, that's terrible.
Well, so I was telling Dave earlier today that I watched the whole game, the entire game, and then rewatched the condensed version. So I got to relive that thing.
Yeah.
You pretty much kicked yourself in the nuts twice then, didn't you?
Yes.
And for some reason, just for full disclosure, I actually did watch the condensed game yesterday, actually, of the Philadelphia defeat. And because while it happened live, I was actually enjoying a steak and a Malbec in Argentina.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
right.
And I was getting disrupted by you guys all the time with a text message. It was 1-0, 2-0, 4-0. You know, my dinner was being interrupted. I was glad to be following it because unfortunately the game was not broadcast live.
It wasn't broadcast live in Argentina?
No, it wasn't.
They don't like MLS down there yet.
No. Argentina, they're all about Boca Juniors and River Plate.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's big time. You know, the Argentina soccer culture is great. And that's why I feel like I kind of didn't skip a beat when I was down in Argentina because, you know, I'm in a country that loves soccer.
Yep.
And like I was telling you earlier, Tony, they love craft beer, at least in Buenos Aires. Maybe not so much where I was in Rafaela, but it was great to be down there. It was my first trip there, and it was fantastic.
Cool. So you were in the land of Malbec wines. Was the Malbec good?
In fact, it's very good. And I've had a few Malbec wines before I'd gone down there, but it was funny. You know, I knew Argentina is certainly known for their steaks, their beef, and their wine. Yeah. And it was funny. My coworker and I, we were in a restaurant. You know, the first or second night we were there, and you know, we were fortunate enough to be with a couple of people from Argentina, and they asked us, "Would you like wine?" And we're like, "Of course." And so the natural question I asked was, well, what do you recommend? What kind of wine? And he kind of basically laughed at me and said, oh, when you're in Argentina, you have Malbec.
Yeah, of course.
And he was like, he went on further to say, well, they do have imported wines, you know, from Spain or Italy.
Do you have a nice Italian wine I could have in Argentina?
And they probably do, but he laughed at me and said, no, if you're in Argentina, you're going to drink a Malbec because you know, Malbec is up kind of, it was a few hundred miles from where I was, but I think it's the Mendoza region, right up at the base of the Andes. Yeah. That's where they make that Malbec great. And it was fantastic. And the variety of Malbec wines is impressive. And I didn't know that. Before I went to Argentina, I thought Malbec, okay, that's Malbec. But no, there's a significant variety. Wow. So you really have to find the one you want because you can go from a very dry to, you know, more like I don't know, like your Italian wines that are not nearly as dry, but it was pretty impressive, actually.
Well, I'm sorry that our texting potentially ruined something.
No,
we did miss you on the podcast last time because I don't know if you people listen to the podcast. Dave and I were talking about some stats stuff, and we're like, well, just come up with something because we don't have our stats guy here. Well, so we just come up with crap.
I feel like today my job is easy. Like as we're talking about this Philadelphia game, I can run you off a bunch of stats, but really the only stat that matters, in my opinion, for that game is the final score, 5 goals to 1 goal.
And here's the thing, we had our hopes and dreams just pretty much crushed by that 5-1 loss.
Perfect that you mentioned that because the Philadelphia Union actually clinched their playoff spot, and what did we clinch that night? I shouldn't say clinch, but we guaranteed ourselves we are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
We're mathematically eliminated. And so, you might want to mathematically eliminated from the playoffs that night. Yeah. And so we went from this, hey, we're the little engine that could. We just got to go up this mountain. We can do it, to have our dreams totally just crushed that day.
You know, and that's one thing that I actually thought about because you haven't brought this up. It's been over a month since I've been on the podcast. I think you brought it up during your last podcast. Yeah. And I want to come back and say, oh my gosh, so much has changed.
It has.
But honestly, Tony, it really hasn't. I went back. The last podcast was in your garage. We recorded it on September 1st. It was the Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend,
And I went back and looked at the standings, and the United were 9th in the standings. And then where did we sit